On the program tonight, as unexpected for many as his test century on debut, Dada is now the chief of the BCCI, the cricket board. Was there a political trade-off? Ahead of the Bengal polls, will we see Ganguly as a politician next? Just how did Sourav Ganguly manage to become the consensus candidate over Brijesh Patel, who was thought to be the favourite? Some reports have said that Amit Shah, whose son Jay Shah is also in the board now, had a word with the BJP leader Anurag Thakur, who helped ensure that at a critical get-together of top cricket honchos, Ganguly got through. But does that now mean that Sourav Ganguly may have future political aspirations or obligations, or is he going to remain neutral as he's been for so many years?
Sourav Ganguly didn't have it easy. In fact, it was all set for Brijesh Patel to become the next president of Board of Control for Cricket in India as a proxy for N. Srinivasan. Tide turned against cricket strongman ex-boss of BCCI N. Srinivasan at the dinner, which was in fact organized by him, which had about 100 of his guests. He was close to installing Patel as the candidate, but between 9:30 and 10:30, a decision was taken which turned the tide against him. One of the members said, "Can't have the man," which is Srinivasan, ruled through a proxy. In minutes, tide turned against him because the other members from western and eastern states also supported this member, and they said that BCCI has gone through a lot of humiliation because of Srinivasan. But the deal wasn't really sealed on Sunday night. In fact, it was sealed a day before when Sourav Ganguly met one of the very powerful union ministers in Delhi, and Sourav's image really appealed to BJP. This was a meeting that was organized by another union minister. In fact, sources tell us that Sourav Ganguly could be Bengal's face of BJP during the 2021 elections. Now he leads a team that has two other functionaries who are backed by BJP's Amit Shah and Anurag Thakur. In fact, Amit Shah's son Jay Shah is going to be the secretary of the board, while Anurag Thakur's brother Arun Dhumal is going to be the treasurer.
All right, so what exactly is next for Dada? Well, for starters, it's certainly going to be the top post of the BCCI, but politics, it's never too far away from the cricket board. It's all interconnected. So is there a political bargain which has been struck? Sanjay Jha joins us, Atul Vasan, my former colleague Nikhil Naz, and Charu Sharma as well. Mr. Sharma, to you first. A lot of people thought that it was Brijesh Patel, then there was this big dinner, 100-odd people over there, and then there was this bunny pulled out of the hat. Sourav Ganguly emerges, and now he's the king of Indian cricket. How do you think that happened?
Well, frankly, I wasn't there in that room, so I don't know, but we can all conjecture, I suppose. And, on one hand, Brijesh being a very close friend, I feel a little empathetic to the fact that he didn't make the boss of the BCCI, because remember, amongst all the rest of the people, he is the oldest. So if the 70-year rule is to be in effect, which I think it is now across all sports in India, then Brijesh may not get another opportunity. I also feel sorry because he has been proven to be a fabulous administrator. He's run Karnataka cricket and many other assignments with great success over many years. So all that experience now would be lost to the cricket board in a sense. Of course, as the IPL chairman, he might bring it into India's premier tournament. But the fact that he will not get another opportunity just it leaves me a little, sad on his behalf. But the politics in the board, all I can say is the best part is that there's no major internecine kind of election which would have just, ruined the pitch. But if it's all sorted out internally and if it's all nominated rather than elected, I'm actually willing to settle for that.
Nikhil, Sourav Ganguly met Amit Shah on Saturday. Mr. Srinivasan was also apparently in Delhi for the same purpose. And then apparently, according to the Mumbai Mirror, Amit Shah had a word with Anurag Thakur, who himself is a BCCI veteran, and then things moved. Is that how it happened?
Well, that's right. I mean, it's been widely reported. And you just look back at the BCCI history, Vishnu, and there's always been some sort of a political figure that's taken the decision for the BCCI, whether it was Sharad Pawar at one time, whether it was Arun Jaitley at one time, which eventually decided who the BCCI president. As we can see right now, I mean, there is no way that it could have been decided without the approval of someone like an Amit Shah or an Anurag Thakur. The only thing that's really disconcerting is the fact that if you were to look at the current dispensation, all that we've heard in the last few years is that let's get away from dynasty politics, let's get away from nepotism. But the more things change in the BCCI, the more they remain the same. You've still got the Shahs of the world, the Thakurs of the world, albeit with other names, still controlling that. And it's not just the the ruling dispensation that we're talking about. There are, of course, some big wigs as far as the Congress is also concerned, who've still got their people. So effectively, politicians always wanted a piece of the BCCI. The Lodha committee was set up to ensure that none of that happens. Unfortunately, 3 years down the line, things remain just the same.
We'll talk about that in a bit, but Atul Vasan, to the point that Nikhil is mentioning about continued nepotism, this doesn't break any rules, because there's nothing in the new guidelines which say that the children of former stalwarts in the BCCI cannot take over. But if you look at it, it's quite something. Tamil Nadu, N. Srinivasan's daughter; Himachal Pradesh, Anurag Thakur's brother; Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot's son; Gujarat, Amit Shah's son; Saurashtra, Niranjan Shah's son; Baroda, Chirayu Amin's son; Bengal, Jagmohan Dalmia's son. This is unbelievable. It goes on and on and on. There are 6 other names. There's 6 other names. I think I made my point. What does this indicate, Atul?
Yeah. Actually, I believe we are at a halfway house. Things were really run by these fiefdom, the families who were Bahubalis, who knew the system in each association, and they used to rule it, and they used to go to board, and they used to just take ad hoc decisions. The ruling party used to just run it as their own personal property. But the things have changed. COA probably at times have been over the top with some of the conflicts, but I believe that it's going to be sorted in some time. You can't just expect to turn from black to white. We are at the grey period. But Sourav Ganguly, we always thought that when will the time come when an Indian cricketer, a famous name, will become the president? Sunil Gavaskar was there in 2014, but that was just a tokenism thing. It was interim. Yep. But this is proper. And sure, there was no voting. Sure, the system was not transparent. We know all that. And what modus operandi was implemented to make somebody an office bearer at this time, when most of the states are dragging their feet on various issues. So, the jury is still out, but I feel that this is a good move for Indian cricket. On the ground level, we are sorted, we are doing very well, the structure is perfect, but we needed a cricketer who's a good orator, he's a good administrator, he's educated, been there, done it, and with his own mind. So, if these people who have put him up there feel that they've got a proxy at the top, they'll be mistaken.
Yeah, that's true. And Atul, you were talking about what he would do. He's already identified that he's going to look after the financial interests of first-class cricketers. That's a very welcome step, because that's not something that has received as much attention as many would say that it needed to in a period of time. If he is able to achieve that in 9 months, because his term is only 9 months, because he needs to cool off for that, because he's been involved in other things earlier on, that would be a huge development. The first-class cricketers, how much they earn, and their security.
Yeah. I think so, but there is a huge elephant in the room, because of the voting in the state system, the first-class cricket is diluted in India. We've got too many teams. If you look at some teams, there's so much corruption going on. People are paying to get a spot in the team, in the new teams which have come. So I think he has to sort it out that only few good teams are called first-class states, This was a problem when the earlier generation was running the board, because it was quite a contentious point of the power with the voting. But the first-class cricket has to be in a small group, not like this, So I think he should sort it out.
Sanjay, let me bring you in on, wear your political hat. Is this a political masterstroke by the BJP? Amit Shah quite clearly involved. There are lots of BJP stalwarts over there. It's all very well for Mamta Banerjee to say congratulations Sourav. She would have said it anyway. But the BJP has always been trying to poach Sourav Ganguly. In fact, the other parties have as well. But with the Bengal elections coming up, do you sense that this could be some sort of a quid pro quo?
Vishnu, first I need to make a public admission that my education in politics began when I was part of the cricket universe. There cannot be a more deeper political cesspool than the BCCI and way cricket is administered in this country. And all political parties at different levels of scale and magnitude are guilty for having really messed up with this game's administration, largely because it is a big cash cow and a flamboyant sport that gets the maximum eyeballs. You know, I actually stood up for Sourav Ganguly at a time of the Greg Chappell fracas when I think the entire world dumped him. And I'm very explicitly going to say this on your channel. The world had dumped him, and barring a few of us, nobody spoke for him. My only disappointment at the moment would be, and I need to be very upfront about it, that he seems to be very comfortable from this appointment in working with a cabal that seems to have a clear BJP political affiliation. Now, whether Sourav Ganguly decides to become a political figure, that's for him to take a call. But there is no denying that he's been a phenomenal cricketer. And if there's any cricketer who can disprove the notion that a professional cricketer can never be a good administrator, I think Sourav would be the best candidate. But if were he to become a political candidate tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to be his most bitter critic.
Why?
Because I do believe that at the end of the day, when you are a cricketer or even a film star, you know, you are appealing to sections which are not divided by any kind of a loyalty on ideology or any other, even a parochial element that has got into politics. So I think in a great number of ways, you destroy.
So were you against
what you
cricketers who represented the Congress in the past?
I have never been in favor of anybody who is especially a film actor or a sports person to be associated deeply with politics, because you do end up ostracizing a large number of your followers who admired you for the technique and the beauty that you brought to the sport.
Okay.
It does get colored. You can't deny that. It does get colored. You know, there are a lot of rumors about MS Dhoni becoming part of BJP. And I can tell you, if that were to happen tomorrow, trust me, MS, a phenomenal man, will lose probably a huge degree of following as well.
I don't know. I think he might actually gain a lot of power, following given the political situation in the country. Anyhow, Nikhil, Sourav Ganguly has been an unabashed friend, follower of Buddhadev Bhattacharya in the past, left. He's had a very decent equation with Mamata Banerjee. He was very reverential towards her today. And quite clearly, the BJP thinks the world of him. I mean, who doesn't? He's at one level a great chap. But politically, do you see this being a stepping stone?
I doubt it. No,
he's never said no to politics, has he? I mean,
yes, but he's never said yes either. Now, just take a look at things that he's always desired. One being the BCCI president. He put his hat into the ring. We all knew that he really wanted to be there. He really wants to be an administrator. We saw that not just now that he's got the position that's in the limelight of being a BCCI president, but even as a joint secretary of the CAB, he did a lot of work. I had the pleasure of meeting him in the office of the CAB, in the joint secretary office, where he actually shared a room with another joint secretary, his head hidden behind loads of files, and he was working as an administrator. That was very heartwarming to see for someone who's been so powerful in cricket as a captain, yet working towards the administration side. He's done a lot of good for the CAB. So we always knew that this is something that he aspired for. As far as political ambitions are concerned, I'm not quite sure that he has those. He's often said that the other thing that he really wants to do is coach the Indian team, maybe become the manager. That's something he'll look at. When he could survive the internal politics of Bengal, and you know the internal politics of Bengal can sometimes be even, more,
intense.
Very intense, even compared to the national level, where there was a time when Jagmohan Dalmia was being supported by the left, and then you, beg your pardon, by Mamata Banerjee, then you had the left with the former police commissioner as someone who was contesting. Even at that time, he chose to remain neutral. I guess he realizes about his legacy, how much people love him. And once he was to decide or just take one, go with one political party, I think there will be some sort of a dent as far as his fan following is concerned. I think he will resist doing that.
Charud, I don't know if you'd like to crystal gaze on this. Sourav Ganguly, the political leader, is that next on the cards? His term is only for 9 months. So after that, do you see him cooling off, coming back to the BCCI, if that is possible, or do you think he's prepping for a larger innings?
Well, I'm all for freedom of choice, really. And, you know, this whole business of public figures, as it were, in terms of sportspersons or actors, if they wish to contribute to public life or become politicians, you know, please go right ahead. I mean, it's a very difficult world. There's a lot of compromise. You know, so are people really ready for it? Do they have it in their DNA to be politicians? That's something they can only find out once they get into it. And of course, they can prepare themselves as much as possible. You know, many people require some kind of a platform to get their visibility to then enter politics. I don't think that's the case with Sourav Ganguly at all. He's a very, very popular public figure. So he doesn't need the presidentship of the BCCI as a stepping stone to get into politics, because he can choose to do so any day he wants for any party he wants, like many other sportspersons or actors have over the years. They all haven't become BCCI presidents. So I think he's really, of course, very deeply concerned with the goings-on of cricket. His contribution, Nikhil mentioned, was behind the desk as an assistant secretary as well. He will enjoy his position. He's his own man. I don't think he's going to be very hugely led by the politics of the cricket board, because he sees a narrow vision benefit for cricket and cricketers only, surely. And eventually, if he chooses to join politics, regardless of which party, that really is his choice, and we must respect that.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure he'll understand the world of politics before getting into it, because there is also a grave danger of losing equity if you do a bad job. But he is a very sincere guy, very hardworking, very focused, and he'll do well in any sphere he chooses, perhaps as the president here now, or perhaps as a politician later. But I think it'll be churlish to presume that he's taking up a BCCI president post to try and better his political career. He doesn't need the BCCI needs him.
Yeah, and which brings me, in fact, Atul, to my next point. The BCCI needs him. Why? Because it needs the image of somebody like a winner, like Sourav Ganguly. Because as Nikhil started in his first remarks, you know, we've had the Lodha reforms, we've had 3 administrators. What's fundamentally changed? There are all these political leaders and their sons and daughters who are in charge. What has fundamentally changed? That image remains of the BCCI. Is Ganguly's presence over there going to sort of balance it out with something new, fresh and determined?
Is this for me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I think it cannot be any better that, you know, a former Indian captain is heading. He's the #1 guy in India. But let me tell you, you know, just like a contrast from earlier days when the BCCI president and secretary used to be all and end all, and they used to control cricket. It's not as such now. You know, there are systems in place. There's a GM, there's a CEO, there's going to be an apex council. So I think all the decisions will be taken in a consensus and a very transparent manner. We are not going to be like what people expect, totally transparent, but we'll be much better off than before. And with the cricketer there, he will actually have the mindset to take decisions or influence the apex council, because they will have few cricketers in that apex council also. So it's going to be a much better balance in contrast to earlier days when there was like a total concentration of power with administrators who were just ruling the board, who had never even played cricket. And there was always the malaise that, you know, what will cricketers do if these people will not go on the side? And it was very hard for cricketers to break through the voting system of associations, which were controlled by proxies and all. And I think Brijesh was the first one to do that, and he did a fabulous job. So he was also a good candidate. If Brijesh would have become the president, I would have been equally happy.
Sanjay, this conflict of interest, clash of interests, is an issue which Ganguly will need to deal with upfront. For example, his good friend Rahul Dravid faces these problems of a clash in interests. Do you believe that that's something that he needs to figure out, perhaps change the laws, if at all he can do that, or try to at least, in order to ensure that some of the best talent in Indian cricket at administrative or training roles is retained?
Vishnu, let's not be naive. Whether it's Sourav Ganguly, I know is an extremely popular figure, and I am personally a great admirer of the man. But let's be brutally honest. BCCI today is opaque, it's conflicted, it's corrupt. The IPL scam, you know, you still don't know who are the real culprits behind it. We all know what happened with the betting scandal, etc. The truth is that you need an administrator who can fearlessly, within the system, challenge it. I mean, Atul is conceding very publicly here, and I think he's being very real. He's saying that don't expect anything spectacular. You can only be incrementally improving. But that's not what the BCCI can actually live by going forward. Cricket is a big thing in this country. There's big cash involved. And I think as far as Sourav is concerned, if you look at his track record, and I know him a little bit personally, he's been a rebel in the system. He's challenged the system. He took on Greg Chappell, and the BCCI actually did him in. Today, when he's in that role, my only worry is because of what Nikhil pointed out. There are so many of these relatives, and the nepotism is so obvious. Now, if Sourav at the very beginning has compromised or adjusted with this structure, then I get a little pessimistic about the outcome of his role 9 months down the line.
Nikhil, last comment to you. Yep.
Which will be a tragedy.
Yes, I think the bigger problem, I know Sourav Ganguly is his own man. He's going to take his own decisions. We know that the interest of cricket is at his heart. But the problem he's going to face is the fact that BCCI is a democratic setup. For anything that he wants to do or bring about a change, he needs to get all members involved.
He can't push through his view beyond a point.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because just imagine, this has been decided. The consensus candidate has been picked at an informal meeting that took place in Mumbai, hosted by who? Someone who was literally kicked out of the BCCI, someone whose son-in-law is facing charges of betting and match fixing. So if someone as that has so much influence over the BCCI, even today his daughter now runs Tamil Nadu Cricket Association, then will Sourav Ganguly be able to implement all these reforms that he really wants to? We know, as I said, we know he wants to. He's probably the best candidate. Will the BCCI cabal allow him to do that? That's the big question.
All right, well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. No clear answers, and perhaps they wouldn't. We shouldn't expect any on what Ganguly's next step vis-a-vis politics is. But the fact that that he's out there as somebody who is a huge figure in Bengal, certainly in addition, of course, to the rest of the country, Bengal elections coming up. A lot of political parties, the Trinamool, the Congress, and certainly the BJP would be looking at him as somebody who can actually make a huge dent. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us.